Welcome to Show's World Gamers, Josh here, and as the week draws to a close, I wanted to take a moment to review this week's new game releases, announcements, and a few news stories. If there's anything I missed, let me know in the comments. Alright gamers, as always we will start with this week's new game releases. First off, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 was released today and is the biggest release this week. It is a Switch exclusive. If you're not familiar with the combat, it is pretty complex. This is one of the best RPG series there is. The first game is super good, and if you haven't tried the series, I would suggest starting there, as to ease you into the combat. The second game was a little tedious at times, but I'm looking forward to jumping into this third game as it looks to be really good. Also getting released this week was the Multiverses Beta. It's a party fighting game, kind of like Super Smash Bros. This game has the craziest lineup of fighters ever. Everything from Arya Stark from Game of Thrones, Bugs Bunny, Harley Quinn, Rick and Morty, LeBron, Shaggy from Scooby-Doo, and Iron Giant, just to name a few. It is set up as a 2 versus 2 fighter and is free to play. It is available on pretty much everything except the Switch, which is pretty weird, but I suspect a Switch version will be coming at some point. Alright, next up is Digimon Survive. It also came out this week, which is kind of a shame, as I feel Xenoblade is going to really hamper its success. It's a different style of Digimon game than we have gotten in the past. It's more of a cross between like a visual novel, but with a strategy RPG built in. It's really interesting concept, but I think it's going to struggle with its sales. It is available on all consoles. Now, I don't usually cover much in the way of mobile games, but I did want to point out that Octopath Traveler Champions of the Continent was released on both Android and iOS, so if you are looking for something you can play on your mobile device, this may be a good pick. I'm downloading it, and I'm planning on giving it a shot when I get a chance. The last new release game that I found interesting this week was Lost Epic. It is a 2D side-scrolling action RPG about a war between gods and humanity, which sounds pretty cool to me. Hopefully I can make some time for this game in the not too distant future. Next up, we'll take a look at a few new game announcements, which even with Comic-Con taking place over the weekend, was a little sparse. First up, we did get Tactics Ogre Reborn. While not officially announced, it was accidentally leaked by the PlayStation Store. This is a remake of an SNES game, and is one of the best strategy-based RPGs of all time. They had added a lot of quality of life improvements to the game, including a rewind feature, which is a nice touch for this style of game. According to the leak, we can expect the game to be released on November 11th on PlayStation, but I expect when we get an official announcement, it will most likely be a multi-platform game. Now, Chenso Club got announced to be coming out on September 1st on the Nintendo Switch, Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. It looks really fun. It's a rogue-based game, which honestly I've gotten a little burned out on lately, but it does offer co-op, which adds a fun element. It's a 2D over-the-top action game that looks like it has some interesting gameplay variety and interesting characters also. So I might give this one a shot. Also, a game called Flock, Gather Your Friend was announced, and it's coming to the PlayStation, the PC, and the Xbox systems, including Xbox Game Pass. It has an interesting art style. It showed a character riding a bird-like creature and flying around a three-dimensional level. There wasn't much info released, but I'm getting a bit of an Omno vibe from it, so I'm definitely going to keep my eye on this one. Also, Bounty Star, The Morose Tale of Graveyard Clam got a reveal trailer, and this is another game I'm going to keep my eyes on. It's a mech game that takes place in an old Western-style setting. The gameplay, from what little we have seen, looks like it could be really fun, and the game is coming to Xbox systems, PlayStation systems, and PC next year. Alright, let's finish up with a few news stories I found interesting. Now, this week started off in the midst of the San Diego Comic-Con. We got some really cool announcements and first looks at a lot of different media such as TV, movies, comics, and toys. The video game news was a little sparse, but we did get a look at this 663,900 piece, 14-foot tall animatronic of Lego Bowser, and it looks awesome. Next up, Street Fighter 6 was at Comic-Con. I was really hoping for some new info about Street Fighter 6, maybe a new character reveal, as the game had its own booth where the game was playable and even had its own panel. Unfortunately, the playable version had no new characters, and the only real announcement from the panel was that the classic character outfits would be available, which looks really cool, and also they would be doing a ton of product collabs from socks to toys, even skateboard decks with Street Fighter 6 on them. Now, the next bit of news is about one of the most anticipated games ever. Grand Theft Auto 6 was in the news as we finally found out our first bits of information about the game. The game will take place in a fictional version of Miami and will expand not just outward with the map that will continue to be added to after launch, but there will also be more interior locations. The bit that seems to really have the internet up in arms was the announcement of the first female main character in a GTA game. There will actually be two main characters, as they are aiming for what has been called a Bonnie and Clyde dynamic, which actually sounds pretty cool. Next up, it's a bit of a disappointing story, as the really promising next-gen remake of Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic seems to be in limbo. Reports are saying Aspyr, the company making the game, has gone through a shakeup, and many of the employees working on the project are no longer with the company. As a result, the project has apparently been put on hold at this time. Alright gamers, this was our weekend review for the week ending on July 29th. Xenoblade was definitely the highlight of the week. Rockstar got the internet all fired up about some GTA leaks, and while the San Diego International Comic-Con delivered big time with movie, show, and toy announcements, we didn't really get any big game announcements. Let me know in the comments anything I may have missed, and like the video. Also, if you're not a subscriber, join in on the fun and hit that subscribe button. Thanks as always, gamers. Shoge World out.